Hi, welcome back to Up Next. I'm Kalen. I'm joined as always by my beautiful and talented co-host Carrie, and I think what was on the agenda today? Were we gonna?
Let me think. Let me think. What could have?
Talk.
What do we usually do?
Do you want to talk about music?
Oh, okay. That's kind of ringing a bell, actually. I'm glad you brought that up. I actually do have a few albums that I'm really excited to talk to you about.
Me too. Do you want to get started?
Yeah, sure. I'll kick us off.
Well, let's just go for it.
Yeah, I don't.
We don't have a cold open. We don't really have anything.
I think that was great. I think that was a great cold open. The first album I'd like to talk about this week is, I mean, they already know what we're doing. The first album I'd like to talk about this week is Polvorosa by Gloios.
I'm sorry.
Gloios. Gloios. Anyway, it's a really, really beautiful mix of a lot of different things, which we love here on the program. I will say, sort of a tether of it, this artist is from Sao Paulo, so there's a lot of like cultural Brazilian music, a lot of localized instruments that play here too, which is really cool. And it's kind of sound collage in a way, because it also mixes in some glitch and some Blackgaze, which is a really cool mixture that we don't necessarily often see out of the region. We get a lot of like art rock, indie rock, audiovisual projects and stuff from the area, but I haven't seen a lot of like Blackgaze that's really stuck with me the way this one has.
There's a lot of cool like breakbeat that comes out of Brazil, and somehow I feel like glitch Blackgaze is almost like a reverse engineered, like a reflection. They've just reinvented. We've looped back around to just being breakbeat, basically. Not exactly. This has a very unique sound, and a lot of the tracks also carry like a tone that is like totally different between each song. But
that too is like every song is very different, and the artist talks a bit in the liner notes about it being sort of a grief process that they were focusing on when writing the album. So they're expecting this like really intense and dark thing, and it has its deep dark moments, but they talk about as the project went on, it's like less scary than they thought it would be. It's less depressive, and it's just more of an introspection. And so it kind of, you know, if you have anxiety or you tend to spin out in those types of emotions, it's also a really good reminder that looking at them in just a different light, it's not so terrifying. Yeah. It's hard, and everyone goes through hard stuff. So,
yes, and I think making art is a great way to process grief. The whole thing here just kind of reminds me of what they tell you to do in meditation whenever you encounter an uncomfortable feeling, is treat it, you know, like a tiger in a clearing. Yeah. You know, you're not like freaked out, you're just observing. Slow. And I think art kind of helps put you out of yourself and out of like those immediate scary feelings, so you can be in more of an observer role.
Yes, yeah, and like using the vocabulary you have, the music you know. This artist is clearly well versed in all of the genres that play here, and so, you know, using those as your vocabulary to put your emotions down too is a really great way to get them out there and make them less scary. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it's just gorgeous. I'm really excited to give it a full listen. And hope somebody writes about it out there. What about you? What's your first album?
Let's see. My first album also is about grief. We're all processing.
Happy summer.
Happy summer. It is Porcelain Shield Paper Sword by Mary Sue and the Clementi Sound Appreciation Club. This record is rooted in abstract hip hop and blended with a lot of South Asian influences. These artists are all from Singapore, and it is the MC who's like the lead rapper in the group, and then 5 instrumental jazz musicians who pull influence from like American jazz music mixed with like Southeast Asian like folk music, and it's
cool. So they're all instrumentalists, and they're all pulling samples and stuff and like showing him, or is there like, is the MC, is he also like the mastermind behind the weird production stuff? Because the instrumentals are great, but the sampling and the way those are treated as well, like the combination of the two is what makes it so special.
Yes. Yeah. So Mary Sue, the MC here, is the producer. Okay. So
yes.
He's working the samples, and then his backing band is doing all of the jazz,
the other
stuff.
Crazy shit. Yes.
Yeah, all the other crazy shit. And yeah, we love a jazz rap album that has actual live instrumentation. So this checks that mark. Yes. And yeah, just like all over the place. Such a strong concept. The concept here is primarily the idea of a time-traveling oracle from ancient Singapore, I guess. And he talks about like the oracle coming to modern day and being like very confused and out of his element. And he says like the Oracle, we're all stuck in a world where spiritual longing gets tangled up with consumerism, where authenticity is blurred by performance, where finding real meaning feels shakier than ever. And Porcelain, Shield, Paper, Sword lives in that field of tension. The album drifts between beauty and collapse without ever landing on solid ground. And the story where I bring in the grief piece here is, I was really struck in the liner notes. He also talks about being at his grandfather's Taoist funeral, and they played Amazing Grace.
Yeah.
In that moment, everyone started crying, like for the first time since he had passed away. Because he talks about, like, in his family's culture, you know, everyone's very reserved and, you know, emotionally very put together, you know, you're a saving face. And yeah, just kind of using that as an example of how music was able to kind of bring them all together and take this like outside influence and make something special happen.
That's really
so. I feel like I've talked a lot about this record already and said a lot. But man, this really blew me away. If you've ever listened to like Wu-Tang Clan and been like, man, I wish these guys were like. I don't know if you like that sort of sound.
Sorry, I think the clip of the album you showed me, I don't get that reference.
Well, because it has
I haven't listened to the whole thing,
okay.
So
it has a lot of like samples that may remind you of that sort of wave in the 80s, 90s, where people were pulling a lot from like Kung Fu and Bruce Lee movies.
Okay, yeah.
Now take that, but now make it like a lot cooler and.
I don't know if that makes it like Wu-Tang Clan. I don't know. Sound off in the comments below. I mean, Orientalism as a movement has happened, but this person is like from.
Yeah, so I'm saying,
there.
like, have you ever wished that there was hip hop that, you know, had that influence, but
genuinely?
But genuinely.
There you go.
Exactly.
That's a good connection. There we go. We found the statement that I needed to hear that I'm satisfied with.
Yes.
And I love the idea of the Oracle too being put in these times and being confused because. I've often thought about that too, like the role the Oracle played, or like the person plagued with visions, where. So there's that piece of it. Mm-hmm. There's also the piece of religion being in place because we didn't have, you know, phones or even celebrity or tabloids, things of that nature, where we can dedicate our like. Creative minds, almost our spirituality in a way, where they sort of become the new religion. So
the search for meaning.
Exactly, yeah, that's another piece of it too. So it's really cool to imagine an Oracle coming here now. It's like, wait, everyone kind of is able to seek their own spiritual fulfillment with everything that is in front of them, and they don't need to seek answers from a person anymore, you know? Yeah. It's really interesting. Yeah.
So this record really blew me away. I need to listen to all of it. It's crazy. Highly recommend. We don't hear a lot of experimental rap out of Singapore. This is also all in English, which is nice.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah.
I take that back. I don't know if that's true. What I've heard so far has been in English, and it's crazy.
Well, I think that's important to include though, because sometimes I'll get like Russian hip hop or whatever. It's like I have no way of knowing if this is good.
Right.
So, you know, English bars, they're a little easier for me to parse and deduce with my limited linguistic knowledge.
You're like, I speak English. Okay.
I speak English. Okay, that was really cool.
Crazy. Highly recommend. Highly recommend.
Hell yeah. Check it out. My next album I'd like to talk about is A Room with a Door That Closes by Maiya Blaney. This is really cool, very personal, and much like my first pick, also very personal, also very deep and dark at the same time, but the sound is very different. It has its moments of sort of soundscape, sort of ambient. The singer has a beautiful voice that goes really well with these free-flowing instrumentals, and at the same time, there's very intense, like, jungly drum and bass percussion as well. Yes. And so that really speedy, frantic percussion being the underlying structure for these, like, very drawn out and, like, beautiful things is really cool.
I love the dichotomy there of
yeah
how she presents this, and I feel like this fits very nicely into a lot of the more experimental R&B stuff that we've been covering too.
Yeah, there's an R&B bend to it. If jungle drum and bass maybe isn't your thing, it's definitely not through the whole album. There's a ton more to enjoy in the indie, almost kind of grunge sphere as well. Just art rock, maybe. She's got an incredible voice, and it's a really cool album. I think Bandcamp did an article on this too, so it's worth checking out. Yeah,
that's great. I am obsessed, with all of these records that just can't really, like, you don't have to pick just one genre. You can just make an album with like 40 different things going on. It doesn't have to be cohesive. It doesn't have to. This is pretty cohesive though.
It is, yeah. Well, and that's kind of what you find too. You can go in all these different directions, but if you have your perspective as an artist, you know, in line, it's always going to be rooted in coming from you. I don't know. You can trace it here, and it's really beautiful. Really deep and dancey at the same time, which is cool.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that. This next album is also kind of dancey, but maybe more in like a goth club way. It's also surprise about grief. It's about someone's dad dying.
We have a theme this week.
This is called Bastard by The Wants. They describe this as no wave, no pop, techno punk, which, you know, pretty much hits the nail on the head.
We're
here.
like just spinning the genre names wheel. I love it.
Yeah, he talks about his father passing away and not knowing until like a week later, and then going back to his house, and it's like a hoarder situation and empty liquor bottles and pill containers all over the place.
Just like you had no idea
Yeah, and so this album's about processing that. But it's through these really abstract lyrics, and I didn't know originally when I first listened to this record what it was about, but now in hindsight I'm like, oh, I totally get it.
Yeah.
Like all of these like abstract, like messy vignettes all are painting this picture of like, oh, it's because it's about like a hoarder house and all of this other like stuff.
Because there is so much.
Yeah. And then it's like, and then you have to kind of take on that parent role yourself.
That's cool. I didn't know the concept of the album at all. It sounds so cool though. It's definitely got its like moments of ambient electronics, but it's definitely this new wave, like you said, goth club approach too, which you don't hear stuff with such a strong emotional concept often in this genre. Yeah, that's cool.
There's been a lot of this stuff that has come out recently. I feel like post-punk has had a resurgence lately. But I feel like this record does it in a way that is not just like so routine and copy paste. I feel like a lot of the post-punk stuff is a little repetitive, but each of these songs and like this whole album has, like you said, just like a crystallized artistic vision that is like they just
point
they just
of
did
view.
it.
I mean, we've talked about it before in our other videos, but like even just trying to define what vision is when we're looking for it, and I know that is something that you can define, and it is a real artistic thing, but when it's there, it's there.
Je ne sais quoi.
When you got it, you got it. Yeah,
you got it. This band's out of New York City too. Always love seeing a good New York City band. It's like, oh, okay, cool. There's some cool people.
Well, I would say most of the somehow, despite everything, most of the projects we listen to every week are from New York.
I don't know about that.
I bet if we ran the numbers, you'd be surprised.
Most from, well, you know, I mean, pure population of it all, maybe.
Well, yeah.
Who knows? Yeah, do you want to give me your last album?
Yes, the third and final album I'd like to talk about today is Island Slang by Lagos and Abagwagwa. This is another really cool culturally based album, mainly out of East Africa. There's a specific group based in Uganda that it's tagged as. I don't know if it's specifically that or if it's like with a bunch of stuff, so I don't want to be too wrong, but very percussive, some chant going on, but I mean, mostly just if you're a fan of polyrhythms, if you're a fan of free jazz, if you are a fan of East African music, you're going to find a lot to love here. Goes in a lot of different directions. It's highly textured, kind of settles into a trip hoppiness just because of its neo psychedelia. It just finds it very naturally. Really cool album.
This is so bright and like beautiful and hypnotic
and summery at the same time.
Yes.
We've been hammocking in the park every now and then. I feel like this would be a good one.
And sometimes when we hammock at the park, there's also, it's not like a drum circle, it's just like one guy with the drum who's there at the river, and this kind of gives me that
energy. That's cool. Yeah, just like you said, bright and vibrant, cacophonous. Yeah. Fall into a trance. Fall into a summery, beautiful honey trance.
Love that. And I always love learning about a new culture through music.
Yes, yeah, of course. You can I gave you just a little bite here. I'm not the most qualified to talk about it. Definitely check out the liner notes and do some deep listening, I would say. Yes. But it's great. I'm loving Island Slang.
Awesome. My last album also inspires some deep listening. I'm talking about Tutti 2 by Kosi Fanny Tutti.
Kosi Fanny Tutti.
Icon. Man, where do I start? Yeah, icon, legend, living legend. For those not familiar, she was a founding member of Throbbing Gristle and then later continued industrial music experimentations through her other project, Chris and Cozy. And yeah, this record is just a continuation of her previous work. I think it's her first solo work in quite a while. Her last album came out in 2022, but I think that was a collaborative effort. So it's really cool to see her put out just like all written, all produced, all recorded, all mastered, all mixed. Like it's all her. And she's really,
because damn, she's got the chops to back it up. If anyone knew how to do it from start to finish, it would be her.
I think she's like 74.
Wow.
I saw a really cute like side by side of her like in her home studio like 40 years ago, and then one of her like last month, and it's just like my heart. She says this album is about tapping into the inner self, to the core of your being, emotionally, physically, allowing the sounds to permeate and soothe, as well as create a sense of power, resistance, and resilience to whatever we face. And so that's kind of a nice...
It's your porcelain shield.
Yes, a nice soothing balm for all of the sad stuff we've been talking about.
I love that as an approach, and I also love when artists get older and they are still exploring topics like this of self-identity and comfort and emotion and stuff. I feel like when I was growing up, it was always like, you're a teenager, so you're having these strong feelings and then you'll grow out of them. And so it's always just so nice when someone is growing and still figuring it out, and like the pressure is off to know what it all means at 74 years old, because it's an impossible task. You're going to drive yourself crazy. Yeah. So it's nice. Yeah.
I love her so much. Her story is phenomenal, and go read her autobiography and go listen to this album.
Love. Thank you. Great. Say her name again.
Kosi Fanny Tootie.
Thank you, Kosi Fanny Tootie.
We'll be seeing a lot of her when we go see She Is Still Here, the Genesis P. Orridge documentary that's coming out next month at Philomoka, that I'm going to cry like a little baby during all of...
Okay, I had
God, sorry.
I know you had mentioned a founding member of Throbbing Gristle being involved in that too, so I wondered if it was the same person.
Different person. No, Jen has unfortunately left us.
Well, yes, but okay.
The same band. Anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, great. Cool, good records. And also I wanted to say, like, Cozy obviously is maybe conceptually larger than what we normally cover, but she only has like 10,000 listeners on Spotify.
Right.
What are y'all doing?
Right.
Go get those numbers up.
Stop listening to Throbbing Gristle.
No. No.
Not stop. Pause the Throbbing Gristle.
Go listen to this.
And then you can go back to it.
Okay, great.
Kalen, what are you excited for this week? I have a feeling I know what it's going to be, but
I'm excited for our travel plans.
Me too.
We're going to Mississippi on Wednesday.
Yes.
We're going to go to the Bentonia Blues Festival.
I think we talked about it last week, but we'll be there. It'll be really cool blues music. We'll be updating the stories and stuff. And damn, I just love being out in the Delta. I miss it.
I sweat.
I was born and raised there.
I'm gonna get... It's not true.
That's not true.
It's not true.
Memphis is named Memphis, though, because it's at the start of the Delta.
Because it is, yeah. That's
there
true.
You go. So, born and raised in the Delta.
All right. Yeah. I'm excited. I'm gonna get 800 bug bites.
Yes, we're going to have to grab some bug spray, grab some sunscreen, and hope we don't get eaten by a gator in the Sunflower River.
We might. Watch out.
Watch out.
I was driving down there one time, and we saw a gator in, like, a lake, and my mom was like, I don't think that's a real gator. And so we literally pulled over, and she's like, I bet, name redacted, put that gator out there to scare us. And so we got out of the car, and as soon as she, like, opened the door, it jumped in the water, and then we screamed and got back in the car.
Well, yes, because the gator probably...
Yeah. They can be really fast on land and also in water, faster than you think.
The thing is, though, if you see them...
It's already too late.
No, the thing about them, it's one of the things, I think if you see them, they're probably not going to get you, because they're ambush.
Yeah, that's true.
So if you see them, and if they know you see them, I think you're good.
And I don't think, we weren't like, if you are getting up in the water with them, obviously that would have caused problems, but I don't think he was, like, coming to actually attack us.
Of course not. You saw it, and you were like, is it real?
It was real.
It was real.
The
gator is real. Man, your grandma, your Mimi's poor cats.
I know.
I'm super excited. I love it down there. I think I said it on our very content, but it's so summer camp vibes. We're going to do tie-dyes. I'm going to wear flowy clothes. It's going to be 95 degrees.
And on that note, I think maybe no up next week, since
probably
we'll be recovering.
Yeah,
we'll be
unless
traveling.
We do like a super fun 5-minute on the go vlog type thing.
Cute. But we'll see.
not promising anything. There might not be an episode next week. Yeah, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Up Next. I really hope you enjoyed the albums we listened to. You can find all our stuff, all our links and everything in the description. We've got a little Patreon. We sell tapes, that sort of thing, if this happens to be your first time finding us. Do you have any closing thoughts?
Yeah, we have merch, we have zines, we have
All
interviews that have come out, are already coming out.
Oh yeah, even just the channel itself has a ton of videos. There's a bit of a backlog now, so you can go watch some.
Nice.
Yeah, feels good. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you like the albums.
Happy summer.
Happy summer. Have a great week.
Bye.